On my wedding day, I was the happiest I'd ever been. White dress, flowers everywhere. The man I loved standing at the altar looking at me like I was his whole world. But my mother, the woman who raised me, was busy doing something in the corner that I wasn't supposed to see. She slipped a folded piece of paper into my husband's jacket pocket. Quietly. Deliberately. Like she'd been planning it for weeks. I almost said nothing. Almost let it go. Almost told myself it was a sweet note. A blessing. A mother's love. But something in her eyes when she pulled her hand back. It wasn't love. It was strategy. That night, after the reception, after the dancing, after everyone went home believing they'd witnessed a fairy tale, I found that paper. And in 30 seconds, my entire marriage, my entire childhood, and everything I thought I knew about the two people closest to me collapsed into ash. They thought the wedding was the end of the story. It was just the beginning of mine. Before I tell you everything, drop a comment right now telling me where in the world you're watching this from. And if you've ever been betrayed by the one person who was supposed to protect you, hit subscribe, because this channel was built for you. My name is Claire. I'm 31 years old, and until 18 months ago, I genuinely believed I had a good mother. Not a perfect mother. I wasn't naive. My mom, Sandra, had always been a little controlling, a little sharp around the edges. She had opinions about everything, my career, my apartment, my friends. But I chalked it up to anxiety, to love expressed the wrong way. I made excuses for her the way daughters do when they've been conditioned since childhood to believe that loyalty means silence. Then I met Daniel. Daniel was steady in a way I hadn't experienced before. Calm, grounded. He didn't need to be the loudest person in the room. He worked in commercial real estate, owned a small condo, had a close relationship with his parents, and treated me like my opinions mattered. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. My mother hated him from the first dinner. Not openly. Sandra wasn't the type to make a scene in public. She was far too calculated for that. But I noticed the small things. The way she'd ask questions designed to make him look small. So you rent office space to businesses? Is that stable? The way she'd bring up my ex, Marcus, in conversation whenever Daniel was within earshot. Marcus just got promoted to partner, did you hear? Such a driven young man. Daniel never took the bait. He was always polite, always measured. And somehow, that made her dislike him more. When he proposed, I said yes before he finished the sentence. I was shaking and crying and completely certain. My mother smiled when I told her. But it didn't reach her eyes. The engagement period was 11 months of low-grade warfare I kept pretending wasn't happening. Sandra had opinions about the venue, about the dress, about the guest list. She wanted us to invite her friend Patrice's son, a man I hadn't spoken to in a decade. And when I said no, she went quiet in that specific way that meant I'd be paying for it later. She made comments about Daniel's family being a little reserved. Don't you think? She once told me, over coffee, that she just wanted to make sure I wasn't settling. I told her Daniel was exactly what I wanted. She smiled again. Same smile. Didn't reach her eyes. The wedding was a Saturday in October. Outdoor ceremony, a venue with string lights and oak trees, about 90 guests. It was everything I'd wanted. Daniel looked at me when I walked down the aisle like I was the only thing in the world that was real, and my mother, standing near the bar during cocktail hour while Daniel was distracted with his groomsmen, reached into her small clutch, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it into the inner pocket of his jacket, hanging on the back of his chair. She didn't see me watching. She smoothed the front of her dress, picked up her champagne glass, and walked away like nothing happened. I said nothing that night, not during the first dance, not during dinner, not during the toasts, one of which my mother gave. standing up with her champagne flute, voice warm and practiced, talking about how much she loved me, how proud she was, how she prayed I'd found my forever person. People cried. Daniel squeezed my hand. I smiled through every second of it with ice forming quietly in my chest. We got to the hotel just after midnight. Daniel was happy, a little tired, loosening his tie before he even got the key card in the door. He draped his jacket over the desk chair and went straight to the bathroom. I crossed the room in 4 steps. The paper was folded twice, small and neat, like she'd prepared it carefully. I opened it. It wasn't a note. It was a screenshot, printed out. A conversation, text messages, between Daniel and a woman named Kayla. Dated 8 months before our wedding. The messages were intimate, unambiguous. And at the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, 4 words. He did it before. I stood in the middle of that hotel room in my wedding dress and read it 3 times. Then I folded it back up, slipped it into my own bag, and when Daniel came out of the bathroom, I told him I was exhausted. We went to sleep. I lay there in the dark, completely still, listening to him breathe, reconstructing the last 2 years of my life like a crime scene. Here is what I knew. My mother had been investigating my husband behind my back. She had obtained private messages. I didn't yet know how. She had chosen not to come to me. She had chosen not to sit me down, woman to woman, mother to daughter, and show me what she found. Instead, she had waited until my wedding day and planted evidence in my husband's jacket like a grenade she could detonate whenever it suited her. That choice told me everything about her intentions. This was never about protecting me. The next morning, while Daniel slept, I walked down to the hotel lobby and called my college roommate, Dina, who had become a family law attorney in the 4 years since graduation. I told her what I found. I told her about the messages, about my mother, about all of it. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Don't confront either of them yet. Come see me Monday. Bring everything." I spent that weekend playing the role of a happy newlywed with surgical precision. I laughed at brunch with Daniel's parents. I posted a photo. I held his hand. And I thought, and planned, and waited. Monday, I sat in Dina's office with the printed screenshot on the desk between us. Here's what Dina helped me understand over the following 3 weeks. First, the messages were real. Daniel had, in fact, been talking to this woman during our relationship. When I finally confronted him alone, quietly, with the paper in my hand, he didn't deny it. He went pale. He said it had ended before our engagement. He said he was sorry. He said everything men say when they are caught and frightened. I believed that he believed it was over. I also believed that a man who had done it once, who had hidden it completely, who had never told me, had already shown me exactly the architecture of who he was. I filed for an annulment, not a divorce. Dina walked me through it. Because the marriage was less than 30 days old, and I could demonstrate that material information had been concealed prior to the ceremony, we had grounds. Daniel didn't fight it. I think the shame made him quiet. But my mother called me the week after I moved out of the hotel and back into my own apartment. She wanted to talk. She said she'd been worried sick. She said she had done what she did because she loved me and didn't know how to tell me. I let her talk. Then I said, very calmly, "You've known Daniel for 2 years. You had 11 months of engagement to sit across from me and show me that paper. You chose my wedding day. You chose his jacket pocket. You chose to let me walk down that aisle, say vows, and spend my wedding night next to a man you believed had betrayed me. Because you wanted the information to land at maximum damage. You weren't protecting me. You were punishing me for picking someone you didn't choose." Silence. I continued, "I'm not angry at you. I'm done with you. Those are different things. I hung up. My mother has since called 14 times, sent 3 letters, and enlisted my aunt as a messenger. I haven't responded to any of it. My aunt told me Sandra cries about it, that she misses me, that she meant well. Maybe she did. Maybe she told herself that story so many times she started believing it. But I remember her face when she slipped that paper into his pocket. Smooth, deliberate, satisfied. That wasn't grief. That was control. I live alone now. I have my own space, my own quiet, and for the first time in my life, nobody is managing me. I wake up every morning and the first thought I have isn't what will she think or how will she react. It's just mine. Some people hear this story and ask me if I'm okay. I tell them the truth. I'm not broken. I'm not bitter. I'm not waiting for an apology that will never come with the weight it needs to carry. I am simply free. And that is the one thing neither of them ever wanted for me.